First Ascents and Nate, or as many of you know him, Scooter, asked me to come up here tonight and talk to you because, as we all know, cancer doesn't just affect those that are diagnosed, it touches everybody that's around them. And Nate didn't think that he'd be able to fully express to you guys what that's like for the people that are around them, for their caregivers. When Nate was first diagnosed, my initial reaction was, I need to protect this man. I need to do everything in my power to help him. But really, what could I do? I mean, I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a nurse at the time. I didn't know what my role was. Sorry. I just knew that I needed to do something. I found throughout his treatment that my role was in helping him with the small things, from making him a sandwich if he was too tired or rubbing his feet if he hurt. I thought anything I could do for him was helping, maybe not physically, but emotionally. There came a time through Nate's treatment when things got really bad. I mean, Nate was bleeding literally to death, and the doctors weren't sure if he was going to make it. I'll never forget them having a roundtable meeting with us right before they went into surgery, and his oncologist standing there crying, and one of his surgeons proceeding to tell us that they were going to do everything they could to make him comfortable as he passed on. I mean, how do you take something like that? In that moment, I never felt so helpless. I felt trapped. There was nothing I could do for him. I didn't get to tell him goodbye. I didn't get to tell him I loved him or give him one last kiss. But to our surprise, and even his doctor's surprise, Nate made it through surgery. He wasn't out of the weeds just yet, but he made it through. They told us that we can come down to his ICU room 2 at a time, and I'll never forget walking into that room. I mean, he had tubes coming out of everywhere and blood all over the place, and he was literally still covered in iodine from surgery. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. In that moment, I was given one of the greatest gifts ever. His nurse, Carissa, asked me if I wanted to help bathe him, get all the iodine off from surgery, and I know it sounds silly, but I didn't feel so helpless anymore. I felt like I was able to do something for him. And I'll always be grateful to her for that. Like I said, as caregivers, it's the small things that we're able to do that are so meaningful to us. So fast forward 2 years, and Nate's finally medically stable. We decided to move to Orlando because Disney is our happy place. For the first few months we were there, it wasn't what we expected. I mean, Nate started to get really depressed, and I found that nothing I could do was helping him with that. I didn't know it at the time, but it was time for me to take a step back, and that's where First Ascents came in. They helped him in a way that I never could. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, thank you, First Ascents, for giving me back that crazy, adventurous man that I fell in love with 6 years ago that I never thought I was going to get back.
My name's Scooter. I'm 20, I just turned 25 years old, and I'm in my first FD camp. They said we have no idea where the bleed's coming from, and they said basically the only reason we're going to try right now is because he's so young, because he's 22. But if you, hold on, if you believe in any kind of God or whatever, that would be a good time, because, yeah, I mean... There's this procession of nurses and techs and just, I don't know, employees of the hospital that would walk in and see me, and they would just walk in and say, Nate, you don't know me, and you'll probably never see me again, but I was there, and you've changed the way I do medicine because I saw how far gone you were, and to see you sitting here now, and it was a weird feeling because I had no idea what happened, and like this, it ended up, I learned after the fact, it took almost 100 people, 100 individuals to keep my ass alive that day.
I want this more than life. I want this more than life. I want this more than life.
The kayaking was fun and definitely challenging, but the roll to me was the first time you flip and there's that second of freak out, but then you control it and actually driving out of it and feeling the water coming down your eyes, and there's that moment you can't see in front of your face, and so you're kind of like looking through a waterfall, and it's like, and you feel like, I don't know, that first breath of like, you know, I just nailed it. And so that's what it means. Am I a little fired up or what?
That's awesome, dude.
If I take anything from that camp, that's definitely the highlight in my head. For me and my own personal struggles with things, it gave me my mojo back, I guess. What First Ascents has given me is, I don't know, that hope again, that realization again that, you know what, there is life after this bullshit. There is life after cancer.
What?
You don't come here and they don't treat you like the sick kid. They don't come and baby you because you had cancer. You know, let me, you know, like put your socks on. Let me like wipe your ass. They just treat you like a person who's out here excited about living, and that's exactly the type of people I needed.
Just as long as you stand by me. Darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, now, now, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me.
I can't even begin to describe to you how honored I am to be able to represent First Ascents. So many incredible people come through this program, and so thank you to all the staff for that. But really, more importantly, you look around, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this family, this crazy group of individuals here. I've never been so lucky to have met you, and I can't wait to meet so many more people. Cancer sort of showed up in my life out of nowhere. I was 22 years old. I just graduated from college, and to be honest, I'd really never even known anybody with cancer. It was just some arbitrary word to me. And then somehow I found myself in an emergency room with somebody telling me that I had advanced stage 4 cancer. And I'm thinking, what the hell? How is that even possible? I'm 22. I don't smoke. I fucking run triathlons. I have no history of cancer in my family. How the hell do I, Nate Post, have cancer? You want to talk about your world flipping upside down? 2 weeks before that, I'd been in South America on a surf trip. I just graduated college, bouncing around the country, and now I'm moving on to an oncology ward where I'll be living for the foreseeable future with no outcome that I would understand. So the next 6 weeks blew by. The doctors didn't know what the hell they were going to do. They didn't know what the cancer was. I was in and out of different surgeries. And then a couple really crazy events put me in the ICU for the first of I don't know how many times. I guess the reason I was there a couple days before, I was having these bleeding episodes. I would go and randomly throw up 3 or 4 pints of blood. And apparently that's a problem. And so they're like, we're going to stick you in the ICU. We don't know what the hell we're going to do with you, but you stay here for a minute. And so that first morning I'm there, it's 5:30 in the morning, and I'll never forget. And one of the tumors had eaten a really large hole in my intestine, so I wasn't allowed to eat. They'd installed a big food tube. And So I wake up at 5:30 in the morning with that very familiar, oh fuck, I've got to puke feeling. And I'm sitting in bed, but it's like I don't want to throw up on my lap, and I've got tubes coming out here and out of my neck and out of my arm. And so I grab my pole and very gracefully jump out of bed. And I remember realizing how dizzy I was. I looked to the left, and my dad was asleep in those really comfortable ICU chairs. And I called, "Dad, help." Because next thing I knew, I'm looking at the floor, and just a fountain of blood that won't stop is just coming out of me. And the next thing I know, I'm face down in this thing, and I'll never forget, because I feel the blood around me, and I can look underneath my hospital bed at the nursing station and realize nobody's there. And it's fuck. My dad starts to try to pick me up, and I can hear him faintly calling for help. And that's when I blacked out. Death is kind of a really funny thing. Throughout this whole thing, death never really scared me. Death is just, I don't know, my perception, it wasn't something scary to deal with. It was the mess that it leaves behind. It was, how do you deal with as a father holding your child as he's in a pool of blood, as he's bleeding to death? How do you move on after that? How do you deal with, as Christy, as a girlfriend, as my mom, as the rest of my family, and have to listen to a doctor tell them, we're going to make him really comfortable while he dies? Sorry. Over the next 18 months, there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of tears, a lot of uncertainty, but then all of a sudden, it was over. They told me I was stable, and all I could think about was all of the doctors, the hundreds of doctors, the shit that I'd put my family through for the last 18 months, the incredible number of friends and other people that were required to keep me there, and how much they'd poured their heart and soul, and all of a sudden, I had this weight laying on my chest. How the hell was I going to justify to them that all of that effort was worth it? That's when we were in Florida. I'm healthy, no problem, and I couldn't get out. Before I was sick, failure wasn't even in my vocabulary. Now, all I could think about was how I was going to fail, how I couldn't help, how I couldn't justify all of the efforts that they put into my life. First Ascents really taught me two big things. First, that I wasn't fucking crazy. Well, I'm a little crazy, but I guess more that I'm not the only one. I was living in my head for a year saying, I'm the only crazy person. Nothing is wrong with me, but I can't get out. I'm paralyzed. And the second, and probably the most important one, and it's so funny to think about as it's so simplistic, but this whole time I needed to set out to change the world now. I had to do something huge to make some huge impact to justify all of these efforts, and they suddenly said, it's okay. What if you could just change one person's life today? What if you could change two people's lives today? What if you could just improve your life today? Isn't that making it worth it? So, I mean, it's a little bit ironic. I'm up here today accepting and outliving an award, but it's really First Ascents that taught me how to live again. So, thank you for that.